But it's that constant repetition that we believe has really dulled the true meaning behind those words. Because every decision that we make, down to the last orange peel that we toss in trash, it does have an effect. So we are asking from the local leaders of the 21st century to remember the words and the true meaning that they hold, and to think twice about the consequences that will happen because of your actions. Because in a world of depleting natural resources, finding accessible forms of waste removal and developing new technologies to aid the recycling process has become more important than ever. The facts speak for themselves. The average person generates over 4 pounds of trash every day and about 1.5 tons of solid waste per year. So you might wonder, where does all of this waste go? Well, the EPA estimates that about 75% of the American waste stream nationwide is recyclable, but our country only recycles about 30% of that. Pleasanton has definitely taken considerable measures to evolve our waste system over time, especially over the last couple of decades. Residents used to combine trash and recyclable materials into one can, and through hard labor, workers picked it through to pull out plastic, cardboard, and other recyclable materials. Today we have sophisticated new machinery that does the separating for us and leads to a more efficient process and outcome for waste removal. In order for this to work, though, everyone has to do their part and work together. We believe that Pleasanton has come very far in going green, but there's still a lot of work that can be done to make it more efficient. Our team of nearly 60 students has made it our mission to assist Pleasanton's growing businesses and flourishing economies to go greener. We created the local leaders of the 21st century with a common goal in mind: the future of Pleasanton, our future. If more businesses agree to participate in recycling and organic separation, our community will become more environmentally friendly and sustainable. By having each member of Pleasanton's Chamber of Commerce do their part, we can together mitigate harmful CO2 emissions and conserve natural resources for future generations. We urge you to create our own ripple effect, one that is lasting, greener, and more sustainable.
Moving into the recycling part of this, why recycle? Recycling is very important, and it's at the core of what we want to talk to you about today, as we mentioned. The process and key reasons behind why we recycle and why it's important to have it happening efficiently and effectively impact all of us. We've been hearing about this for years, but it's important to talk about it again and again to keep that in mind and keep it happening. Recycling reduces the waste we send into landfills and incinerators. It helps us to repurpose all of our materials. By reducing the need for these raw materials, we reduce the pollution needed to make them. We save all of that energy required too. In the long haul, this reduces the greenhouse gas emissions that contribute to large-scale problems like global warming that we have, proving exactly why the simple act of recycling can empower and truly impact future generations in sustaining their environment. On top of that, recycling creates jobs in the industry throughout the U.S., and it can save you money on your waste hauling bills of all kinds. Recycling on the larger scale is so important. When we repurpose our materials, we have less in the landfill. Fewer landfills means less land used to hold our waste, and when less waste sits in that hole in the ground, less toxins are released from it and into our air and water. It costs a lot of taxpayer money as well to create landfills and ship the waste out to them. So by decreasing the need, we're lowering the future costs to all of us. The toxins produced from landfills and the transportation to them are greenhouse gases like carbon and nitrogen, just like what comes from our cars. These toxins can come from organic materials in the landfill as well, and other kinds of waste too, that may produce gases like methane. Methane traps more heat in the atmosphere and has the equivalent of 25 times the impact of carbon on our planet. Having both come from our landfills and the transportation to them with the waste is not only awful for our public health, but awful for our atmosphere. In general, it's better to just keep our landfills from being very full by recycling and repurposing. In addition, agricultural and human waste, as well as industrial and transportation emissions, contribute nitrous oxide to our atmosphere, which is roughly 300 times as harmful as carbon. Being responsible about our waste and willing to begin with this small act of recycling as a community is really crucial to prevent this impact from taking place. Not to mention the fact that recycled materials we use take less energy to produce items than raw materials. On top of that, when we decide to go for the raw materials that aren't recycled, like cutting down trees or mining, for example, we use a lot more machinery that takes energy, again contributing to the CO2 in our atmosphere. It's all part of this big picture. Global warming is real and is a detrimental problem that we don't have much time, if any, to fix. It's really important to our generation especially. If any effort is possible, like recycling really is, to fix the problem and reduce emissions, we should take advantage of it at all costs, especially when it comes down to what we can do on our own in our very own homes and businesses. The big idea about global warming, too, is that the greenhouse effect with the ice caps in the atmosphere is all a cycle. It really comes down to not only adding these harmful gases to the atmosphere through the emissions, but melting the ice cap when the gases are trapped inside. All of our activity contributes to these emissions, and all recycling is the best way we can start small and prevent this from continuing. It's really the biggest universal way we can connect to our communities and get that going. It's the best action. All aspects of our lives can be impacted by how we dispose of waste, and all aspects of the future can be impacted too. So recycling is the simple and vital solution for homes and businesses for that reason.
So here are some of the rules and regulations that are in action as of right now. And so Pleasanton is a very green city, or at least it tries to be by implementing these laws. The Pleasanton Garbage Service has now made it much easier for businesses to recycle with the new single-stream commercial recycling program. It provides your business with an opportunity to recycle paper, cardboard, cans, bottles, glass bottles, and jars in one 96-gallon single-stream recycling cart at no cost, and free is good. Additional carts or larger size recycling containers are an additional fee and are both available to all Pleasanton Garbage Service customers. The cart is picked up weekly at the curb or adjacent to your existing trash enclosure. And remember, placing inappropriate materials such as lawn clippings or food waste in a single-stream cart will contaminate material otherwise suitable for recycling, leading to the issue that we're trying to avoid by recycling. And as of March 2013, according to the Alameda County Recycling Ordinance, businesses and institutions in Pleasanton that generate 4 or more cubic yards of solid waste per week are required to have a recycling service capable of handling the amount of recyclables they produce. The ordinance prohibits the disposal of any food scraps and compostable paper in that garbage. It is recommended that property owners and managers should post prominent signs on or near the recycling and garbage containers, clearly indicating which are for garbage and which are for recycling. And signs are available on their website. So there are 4 key steps for businesses and institutions that produce 4 or more cubic yards of garbage. So step 1 is to provide containers in service of sufficient number, size, and frequency for recyclable materials. 2 is to recycle all recyclable covered materials, which are, stick with me, cardboard, newspaper, white paper, mixed recyclable paper, recyclable glass, food and beverage containers, metal, aluminum and steel, food and beverage containers, PET number 1 and HDPE number 2 plastic bottles. Number 3 is to ensure recycling containers are contamination free and that only recyclable materials may be placed in the recycling containers. You can hear us reiterate that point that we don't want to cross-contaminate, but it's really the most important part. If you want to recycle by cross-contaminating these materials, you're kind of destroying the whole purpose of recycling and just creating more methane and destroying the whole purpose of recycling. Number 4 is to provide information at least annually to employees, tenants, and contractors describing how to properly use the recycling and garbage containers, as well as no later than 14 days after move-in and no less than 14 days prior to move-out for tenant businesses. And if a business or multifamily building is out of compliance with the law, a warning letter will be sent to the property owner, and free assistance will be offered to ensure that the property owner knows what recyclable materials are covered by the law, and any other actions they must take in order for the business to comply. And if the business or property does not end up complying, even after free assistance has been offered by this program, the business or property owner may be fined. So just to summarize, currently only businesses that generate 4 or more cubic yards of waste per week are required to recycle. And only businesses that generate 8 cubic yards or more of food waste per week are required to separate organics. However, this could all change on January 1st of 2017 if the City Council approves a new ordinance. And if they do, then all businesses of any size will be required to recycle. And businesses of any size will be required to separate organics if more than 10% of their total waste is organic material, which is food scraps or soiled recyclables. And we'll have to wait and see if the City Council approves this ordinance, but if they don't, the City of Pleasanton will lose their Measure D money from stop waste, which is somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 per year, which goes to funding education and outreach about recycling for the community.
So one thing that we really want to make sure that we emphasize is this affects all of us personally. It goes beyond business repercussions, it goes beyond the science of it or the laws. It affects each and every single one of us. And so, as Sophia said, as the levels of methane and carbon dioxide increase, the levels of oxygen in our air decrease. And so on 580, large semis carry waste to the Altamont landfill. And so these trucks, every single day as they carry that waste, they're depositing both carbon dioxide and particulate matter into the air. And because of that, our air quality decreases.
And so children and the elderly are most vulnerable to the health impacts associated with transportation-related air pollution. Simply by recycling and separating our organics from our trash reduces the amount of trucks that have to haul garbage to the landfill, and fewer garbage trucks means less air pollution. This seems like a really small issue. It's not that big of a deal, it's just trucks that are driving by. But it's really easy to just dismiss this as something that the next generation can deal with. But we need to acknowledge that this is something that is affecting us today. So what we did when we were researching is we used childhood asthma hospitalization rates as a standard for measuring the negative effects. And so if we look into recent data from Alameda County Health Statistics, we can see that Alameda County consistently has higher rates than those of the rest of California. And that's shocking. Those are our children who are having to be hospitalized because of higher asthma, part of which is caused by air pollution. And if all we have to do to stop that is just recycle more, that's a really easy step to take. And so to throw some other statistics your way, just to help put all of this into perspective once again, studies show that communities near landfills see health effects associated with exposure to landfill gases. So it's nausea, headaches, nasal blockages, sleeping difficulties, chest pain, weight loss. Landfill gases that are a result of ammonia and hydrogen sulfide are the cause of the strong pungent odor that's associated with those landfills. So we know they're there. And even though we take measures to ensure that they don't affect us to a great degree, there's still something that we have to consider and worry about. These same landfill gases can also enter nearby buildings, and it's a whole process called vapor intrusion, and then the gas sits around in places with low ventilation and can cause further risk to both structures and to health. Luckily for us, Pleasanton is on the lower end of those childhood asthma rates that we talked about earlier in Alameda County, and in fact, the waste that passes through to Altamont isn't even ours for now. In Pleasanton, our waste first goes to the transfer station on Bush Road. From there, it travels to its final stop at the Vasco landfill. Despite all of this, Altamont landfill and the Alameda asthma rates show us a negative scenario that could very easily be us if we don't take care. In fact, when talking to the city manager, he mentioned that the Vasco Road landfill could be at capacity as early as 2025, which again is another scenario that adds to the negative effects that we have discussed already. Just last Wednesday, we had the opportunity to see all of this firsthand. And even though we saw it in the video, it doesn't become real until you're standing there, seeing the mountains of recyclables, of garbage, seeing people sort through them by hand. And so we toured all of the facilities and we saw firsthand how our garbage is treated, how it's separated, and how it's sorted. And it was an enlightening experience because it's difficult to think of what happens once you throw out your trash or you put your recyclables away. We can see it in a video, we can be told about it, but it's completely different to see it firsthand. By going on this trip, we all were able to realize, we saw the importance of what we had been researching this entire time. We saw that it is important to recycle and compost. It's not just something that we're talking about, it actually makes a difference. The people who work at the transfer station will sort through all of our recyclables and compost. They filter out the glass from the papers, then they organize the papers into cardboard, newspaper, and regular paper stacks. That paper is then taken away to be recycled and reused. And Pleasanton Garbage Service is admirable for their efforts to ensure that things get reused and recycled. But the rest is up to us. It's our choice to make those right decisions. And it's essential to realize that what we put into regular trash bins or what we cross-contaminate, it never gets touched. That garbage goes straight to the landfill. It doesn't even have the opportunity to be considered as a recyclable. And so if there are compostables and recyclables in there, they never get the opportunity at all to even be looked at. And so all we have to do to prevent all of this is to just take a few measures. And we just wanted to make sure that we conveyed that idea to you guys.
And so speaking of landfills, we also went to the Vasco landfill last Wednesday, and the manager, Diana, there told us that since 2003, the volume of garbage dumped per year has decreased in half, which is great news, but we could definitely have some improvement too. According to how we go by right now, the Vasco landfill will be at full capacity by 2025, which is less than 10 years away. However, before we feel too bad about ourselves, I do have some good statistics to hear, which is that in 1990, only 15% of recyclable material were actually recycled. However, in 2014, Pleasanton actually recycled 73% of possible recyclables. Considering that the nation on average only recycles around 40%, we are definitely setting a good example. But we can do better. We can improve, and that's what makes us leaders to the other cities and businesses around us. Now stay on the slide. But this sounds a bit daunting, but there are definitive steps that we can take to help all of it. The laws that we've discussed earlier have all been put in place to help ensure a sustainable and healthy environment. By taking the time to make small changes in the way we already recycle, we can not only abide to the city and county standards, but we can also ensure the health but we can also take care of our next generations that will inherit the city after us. Remember, these things that we're talking about, these renewable, recyclable material that's currently being unnecessarily thrown away, these are all resources for our next generations. If we dump them now, we lose them forever. Business collaboration will be a very effective way to help the whole city have a seamless transition into better recycling. Change can be difficult, but we're all in this together, and the entire city does matter. As a reminder, like what Maura said, that if the 2017 ordinance does pass, it requires that all businesses recycle, at the cost of a loss of education money if we don't abide to the standards. Now, if we all took that one extra step to choose the right bin to place our trash in, we will definitely be helping our future generations and ourselves and the community. We're also constantly collecting new tips and tricks that businesses have found useful for them. So if you think you have any feedback that could definitely help us, please feel free to contact us. We have our contact information on the sheets over there, I think. And also to learn how to set up recycling, don't hesitate to call Pleasanton Garbage Service because they will be more than happy to help you or any people you know who have businesses set up the right recycling for them. Now, I'm also going to really focus on compost because a lot of the times we talk about recycling bottles, but we forget about the food scraps. And that's equally important, or maybe even more important too. For food scraps, buying biodegradable bags or BPI-rated bags are essential and are a great way to get started with composting. Oftentimes, we'll be throwing away our food scraps, our leftover food, or like the food scraps we have from cooking food into regular plastic bags, and that goes to the landfill, not to the compost. Additionally, think of all the paper towels you or your clients may be using every time after you wash your hands. That's perfectly fine paper that could go to the compost, but instead it's going to the landfill. So by using these biodegradable bags, you have these bags that you can put your compostable material in. You're preventing them from going to the landfill, taking up space, and creating harmful methane gas. And just on the side note, we actually have a sort of Pleasanton-based company, Clorox, which is more well known for the bleach they make that you use to wash your toilets with, but they also make these bags called Glad bags, which are basically biodegradable bags. So by killing two birds with one stone, we can both be local business friendly and be doing our part to improve the recycling situation in the city.
Overall, as the local leaders of the 21st century, we really want to stress that our goal of creating a sustainable environment for the future. We strive to take actions to help the Pleasanton community for both economics and environmental reasons. Recycling helps protect our society from dangerous gases like carbon dioxide and methane. Additionally, it also helps to reduce CO2 emissions because there's less waste and less trucks to transport them. By taking simple measures, we will help prevent drastic negative consequences for the future. Now imagine this. In 9 years, there might not be any landfill anymore because people just throw away their waste anywhere that they please without separating their trash and recyclables. It is no longer a landfill, but a landfull. We believe that the Pleasanton community can prevent the loss of our landfill by taking simple steps to recycle. Households and businesses alike must collaborate and work together to make these changes happen. Just like all the bottles that are in front of you and cans, they all matter, and all the food scraps and recyclables, they matter. We can take these baby steps to start making a change in our society, which can transform to walking, then running, then leaping to environmental sustainability. Please join us in helping our town to go furthermore green. Thank you.